Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to come and join us and learn a bit about using the PredictWind Offshore App, in particular for doing an Atlantic crossing. That will be, using the offshore app in that situation is how we're going to explain using the tool. Really, what the webinar is about is explaining how to use the PredictWind Offshore App, and that's what we'll focus on. My name is Nick Olsen, and I'm a sailor. I've sailed all my life. I'm the marketing manager at PredictWind. I do some offshore sailing and dinghy sailing as well. Let's get underway. I'll share my screen. So just quickly, a little bit about PredictWind before I do that. PredictWind has been in existence for about 12 years. As I mentioned just before, was started by John Bilger. Our mission statement is to make complex weather simple and accessible to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And that's a philosophy that we have and that we try to follow. But the big key behind all of that is the people that I just talked about, and all our developers. That it's actually the people that make the product great, and our customers giving us the feedback. So thank you. Righty ho. Let's get going. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. So we're here today to talk about the offshore app, and that is what we're going to cover. Just quickly, we have the PredictWind app and website. That is what you use when you are in the marina at home. Should I put the washing out today? Should I go sailing at my local yacht club or whatever? It's packed full of really cool stuff, massive amount of information in there, wind maps, gust maps, observations. You can do weather routing in there. You can check the tides. It's got tables. It's got daily briefing. It is packed full of information. So don't just use the offshore app. Use the PredictWind app when you're not doing passages. And it's a great, rich piece of rich tool. So we're here to talk about the offshore app. The offshore app is a standalone piece of software designed to be used when you go out of a Wi-Fi connection. It will work on basically any proper satellite connection. So what I mean by that is any satellite connection that can make a proper data transfer. So not an inReach or spot device that they use short burst data. They can't do proper data transfers. But SSB can also connect to the offshore app. If you can send emails with attachments, you can use the offshore app. So I don't really need to talk about much more about it because we'll just go straight into how we would use it. So don't need that. So what we would do is I'll just stop this playing. Before we go anywhere and do a passage like what we've got up on the screen here, you need to understand a little bit about your boat or the boat you're sailing on and how fast it goes. And what we do to understand that is we use what is called polars, so performance polars. So that is essentially how fast our software thinks your boat is going to go. Before everybody asks about polars in the questions, I think Kieran will put up a link to how you set up and adjust your polars. I'll quickly talk about it now. So we need to do this either in the PredictWind app or in the PredictWind forecast site. And I've gone into tools and weather routing. And then I've clicked on routing preferences up here. And in here we can see, this is where we set up our polars. We need to come in here and we need to choose our boat or a boat that's similar to ours, or set up, power, sail, or advanced. Advanced polars are if you want to make up your own polars. which you might do over time. You might get some base polars from your designer, and then adjust them to suit how you sail the boat. Today we're going to talk about the predefined polars. So you see over here we've got this predefined dot. I've clicked on there. You see I've got a Swan 45 set up. But there is a huge list of boats in here. So if your boat is in here, by all means use that. Select it. If your boat is not in here, there might be one that you know is similar, that you've sailed with one of those before and it basically goes the same speed as you on most points of sail. So you can choose a boat that's similar to yours. We also have some generic polars up here, 50-foot catamaran, 45-foot sailboat, AC 50, depending on what you've got. So what should we choose today? It's always a trick. Well, we could be La Vagabond today. No. Let's go for a monohull. In fact, let's just stay with what we've got. Let's stay with the Swan 45. Nice boat for anyone that's got one of those. And so yeah, all I need to do there is select that boat. You know, that Swan. Oops, I've chosen a Swan 60. Oh, well, let's stick with that. Actually, no, I liked what the 45 did. So I've selected that there. I could also set up my motoring options, which we'll talk about later. But I'm going to leave that off. And you'll see here we've got some polar speed adjustments as well. We could, if we were too fast, if we thought that if we ran some routing and we could see that the polars were too fast, we could turn that down. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we're on the offshore app. So I need to come over here. I've selected my polar. I need to click on this weather routing tab, and I need to calculate a route. That will save my polars against my account. So that's the key to it. They are saved against your PredictWind registration. So anyway, I don't need to do that because I've already done it. And we will flick over to the offshore app. So I will just stop my screen share there and we'll all get to see me. And find the new screen share and go into the PredictWind Offshore App. So I forgot what I got on there. Ocean currents. So just flick over to weather routing. So the offshore app is, as I said, it's a standalone piece of software. It's designed to be used when you go out of a Wi-Fi connection. You can use it for all your planning, well, you can use it anytime you want, but it will save any data that you load into it. It will save it. One of the great things about PredictWind is we are multi-platform. So I'm running this on a Mac. I was doing testing last night of the offshore app on my PC laptop. You can use it on an iPad or an Android tablet. You can have it on your phones, iOS or Android. And also I've got a nice little Mac laptop there. So your Mac or PC laptop. So really great that you can basically use a Chromebook as well. It will run on that. Really nice that you can run the offshore app on basically any device you've got. What is great about that is that you can actually have the software, and for a trip like this, crossing the Atlantic, any major ocean crossing, redundancy is key. So having a bunch of devices with that software on it. Let's say you got hit by a wave and your laptop fell on the floor or whatever and broke. You can just switch over to the iPad, or you might want to worst case scenario, you can use your phone to look at the routing. The reason I like the laptop or an iPad or a tablet is the bigger screen size allows me to analyze the weather better. So we've set our polars. When we do a weather routing request, that weather routing request is going to go to the PredictWind servers, and it knows it's me. It knows I've got a Swan 45, and it is going to calculate that weather route on our servers for my Swan 45 polars. and come back with all the information for the weather routing. And it will use the 4 models that we currently have. So that's my next topic, is weather models. So at the moment, as at today, we have 4 weather models. Why do we have them? Why do we have 4 weather models? No weather model is always right. And we've got a really, really great example on the screen here. I'll just scroll that across. Is that you'll see here that we have 3 weather models. So the blue, the green, and the red, they basically all think the same thing. And then we've got the ECMWF, who wants us to do something else. And it's obviously thinks there's a slightly different situation happening with the weather. And so we would want to understand why that is. But the great thing about having these 4 routes there is that we can quickly see that there is a difference in the weather between the models. The ECMWF is considered the #1 global, well, it's proven to be the #1 global model. Having that in our weather routing is a really strong thing for us to have. And so just before I go too much further there, we are about to add in 2 more models. And there might be some people going, oh, why? Why? Because we're all about giving people the best data available. We could chuck 50 models in there if we wanted to, but we've done a lot of work and some evaluation studies, and we're going to put in the UKMO model, which is the #2 National Weather Service model in the world. And so we've got we have the ECMWF, and then the UKMO, and then we are also adding in a model called Spire, and that's from a private company, but it's very unique, and it did exceptionally well in our validation studies. And what's unique about it is that Spire have their own nano satellite network, and these satellites are doing a thing called radio occultation, and they're firing beams through the atmosphere, and they are collecting data from that. They have full global coverage with these satellites, and they also have the full height of the atmosphere in the data that they're collecting, which feeds into their model. Why is that important for what we're talking about? It covers remote areas. There is no gaps in the initial conditions, in that initial set of data that is fed into the models. And whereas no other model that's available has that full data set. So in our validation study, it actually beat the ECMWF at sea for direction and wind speed. The UKMO also did very well, compared to the ECMWF, which, as I said, is the gold standard. And the GFS was a pretty distant 4th. So as far as those big outside models go, you wouldn't want to be just relying on the GFS, because there's in the study there we had 3 other models performing a lot better. So far as in-depth modeling goes, you can have a look on our website. We do have information about the models. We have you can see the validation study that I was just talking about. I'm sure someone can fire that link up. But having the models there, having them all calculated in the weather routing is really important. It's a really great way to look for any differences in the models. In this situation here that we've got here, I would go with the 3 models that think the same thing. I don't, and I would also have a look at why the ECMWF thinks this. And I suspect the reason it sent us south like that is that there's this high pressure. Let's see, what do we got there? Yeah, that's what we do. Anyway, let's get into how we would use this. So you see I've run the whole route across the Atlantic here. I can zoom out and sort of see what we're doing, but you can see there's a big difference in those routes there. So how would I use this tool? Let's go into here. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click on download. Actually, I'm going to cancel that. I've skipped. It's really important that we have our start and finish waypoints in the right place. And so let's say we have sailed this far. Let's say that we are here. We followed the three models that were saying the same thing. So we can put our lat long in for where we are. You'll see when I move this, the lat long changes when I move my green start waypoint. So that's where the boat is. That's as you travel, you've got to move that green start waypoint. Obviously our destination isn't changing at this stage. So we've got that set there. We've sailed to here, and the weather models have updated. It's been 12 hours. So every 12 hours, we want to update our weather routing, and because the weather models have updated. So there's been a new run of weather models. And so the best data is always the freshest data, the most recent. And so we want to get that, and we want to update our weather route. We want to be able to look at the big picture and see what's changed and what's going on, if there's anything new. So we've moved that to there. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click on download. And you'll see here I have got a bunch of stuff that I can choose from. We're out at sea. So the high resolution modeling, these are the PredictWind models, which I didn't really mention in my model talk just before, but they are very good models. They will having them in there in the routing is great for us to see the consensus, to get more opinion as such, and also when we are close to land, they are exceptional, and that they will beat the ECMWF or any other model, and that especially in that 1 to 2 day range. So, but we're at sea and we're using a satellite connection, so we're going to turn them off because we don't need them. The weather router, any high resolution modeling that's available, the weather router will use it anyway. And so then we come over here and we can select our models. I'm going to get all models because I want to be able to compare them. In this situation here, I mean, I probably could get 2, and I definitely want to get the ECMWF to see why it was doing something different. But anyway, we'll see what it comes back with when we run the routing from where we've sailed to. I'm going to change my time step. We've got a really big passage here, a lot of days, and we want to get our data size down. So I'm going to put it out to a 24-hour time step. What that means is that I'm actually only getting the actual grib each 24 hours, but the software is going to interpolate between those time steps. I could change that to 12 if I wanted. But it's not. It's only if we saw a front or something coming through, that timing would probably be. We might get a shorter amount of data to see that timing. I've got 10 days of weather. Hopefully that's going to cover my trip. I might even choose to get 5 days because I just want to see the next 5 days of weather. Depends. I might come back later and just choose one model and get 10 days. But I'm trying to keep my data size sensible for my satellite connection. Again, we're out at sea. Resolution. Yep, resolution is always better, but the weather routing is using the highest resolution it can. And so, for the ECMWF, it's using 9-kilometer resolution. The map, the gribs here that we're looking at, they're just here to to give us the overview, the visual of what's happening. So at sea, that's probably fine. My parameters here: wind, pressure, rain, wave, gust, cape. Temperature, that would, if I wanted to see if it was if there was a front coming through, I wanted to see if it was a cold front, I could put the temperature in. Cloud, again, I'm not, I could, but I don't really want it. I want cape. I'll talk about cape in a minute. I want gust because, and I will explain what cape is, and I'm sure someone's probably just linked a really good news article we have on it. And I want gust because I want to see the winds that we're looking at in the grids are averages. And so the weather routing is based on averages. I want to look at the gusts and see if it's vastly different. I want to see if there's a big difference between the averages and the gusts. If there's a big difference, I know that the air is quite unstable. That will also relate to my cape. So talk a bit more about that in a minute. Wave, yep, I'm going to get it just because I can. But it's in the weather routing. Actually, let's turn it off, just so, but because we can trust the weather routing. The weather routing's amazing, and any point on that route, we can see what the waves are. If we saw something nasty, we might do another download and just get the wave. So ocean data here, observations. I could get those if I wanted. Why would I use the observations? I can see, buoy data, and I can compare that data to my grids at that time now, and I can say, okay, this model's doing a better job than that one of what's happening now. Because I've run this weather routing before, I've got 3 routes saying the same thing. It's probably not as critical because there's definitely consensus there in the models. Ocean data, again, it's a huge file. I've downloaded it already before I left. The ocean data doesn't change very quickly from day to day, so not as critical to update. So I've downloaded it before I left. I'm going to be able to flick over to that with my weather routing and have a look. Probably, again, for this passage, it's not quite as critical. If I was coming from the US to the Caribbean, 100% I would be wanting to be looking at this ocean data, looking at the Gulf Stream. How am I going to hit the Gulf Stream? What does it look like? So yeah, really valuable data there. Right, we'll turn it off because we've already got it. Anything that I downloaded previously is saved in the software until I replace it with something new. Let's go next. So here we are. Our start time is now. If I was doing some planning, I could change that to in the future. A couple of days ahead, and looking at the time that I was going to leave. We also have a departure planning tool, but the departure planning tool would be more for deciding when I was going to leave. We never want to sail to a schedule. We don't want to say we're leaving on Saturday. That's when people end up in bad weather. We want to be flexible with our departure time. We want to look at the weather. We want to look at our entire route and understand what we're going to get. A day early, a day late, 2 days later, it can make all the difference. It can be the difference between an amazing passage and a horrible passage. A passage where people may not want to go and do a crossing again. Getting that timing right is so critical, and that's why we give people these tools, is so that you've got all the tools at hand. You're not like, oh well, we've paid for the weather router guy, and well, we need to sort of go. This is all adding up. You've got these tools here yourself. You can make your decisions, and yep, you can garner opinion from elsewhere. But having these tools that we provide, learning how to use them, and using them to good effect is going to make your sailing experience exponentially better. I can't emphasize that enough. That don't leave on a schedule. Leave for when the weather's right. So just quickly up here, we've got this little settings wheel here. I can click on here and I can change some settings. So I can change my polar speed. So why is that important? I haven't done a good job of setting up my polars. The routing's going too fast. I can move it down. We're not sailing the boat as fast as we normally do because we're short-handed, or we're just, you know, we're cruising. So we might turn that polar speed down, change that adjustment. I've also got an option for motoring here. If you know, if our boat's a bit of a dog when it's not very windy, we might want to turn that motoring option on. I'm gonna, you know, if I turn that on, I'm going to motor at 6 knots if the wind's less than 8 knots. I mean, some people don't want to sit around with, you know, it can be pretty frustrating sitting there and no wind. Yeah, we know that Craig works on Saturday. It can be, you know, pretty frustrating sitting there in no wind. So the weather router you can have that turned on, and whenever it gets below 8 knots, it knows that you're going to motor. It makes your routing more accurate. I'm going to turn that off. We also have a comfort setting down here. I'm not a fan, and the reason for that is, yes, you can set the weather router so that it will avoid wind speeds greater than 30 knots and wave heights greater than 4 meters, or whatever you choose. But let's, you know, the thing here is that we're giving you a tool, and it is that, and it's something that you should use. But seamanship is above everything. And I want to know, I just want the weather router to show me the fastest route there, and then I will look at the weather and I will go, oh, okay, I'm going to avoid that system there, so I might head a bit further north. I could put a waypoint in or whatever. But if I look at the fastest route, I can know what the fastest way to get there is, and then I can make my decisions based on that, because I wanted, you know, I'm taking, you know, I've got my life and everyone else on the boat's life, you know, are based on these decisions, and that's why we want to have the best data. We don't want it. I personally don't like it to be skewed by avoiding, you know, having the router avoiding it. I'd rather do that avoiding myself. So I'll just close that there. You'll see here I've got the GMDSS forecast here. This is a written text forecast. We want that. It is written by the local Met area. So whether, you know, we're on the European side or the US side, or the, you know, wherever we are in the world, that is written by meteorologists. What is great about it is that it will give you warning of things that you might not see in the gribs. You know, a professional meteorologist has pored over it, probably several of them, and you know, they might be able to see a depression forming somewhere, and it will give you a heads up on that. It's also a very tiny file. Satellite imagery, again, that could show something that was beginning to form. But I've got the GMDSS. I'm not a big fan of the satellite imagery. You might be. You can get that. And here I've got the GPS tracking. I'm going to download both of those so that we can talk about it later. So just click on next. And what we can see here is I've got an estimated file size for all my grubs and my weather routing and my tracking. And up the top here are my different connection types. And I'll briefly talk about them because it's important. So email, that's what I would do if I didn't have if I was on SSB, really is the big one. You would create an email request, you save that request to your desktop, you can send that off, and then it will send you an email back, and you import the gribs and the weather routing. Again, you'd need to have smaller file sizes than this, but you can adjust that. Satellite tab, that is if you have basically any sort of fast connection, you can use the satellite tab. If you have a Certus based connection. Global star, The optimizer, that is if you, again, you could have a high-end satellite system, or you might have a 955 sat phone with an external antenna, and you can connect the optimizer. Optimizer creates a firewall so that you're not downloading anything that you don't want to. It also creates a Wi-Fi connection on your boat, similar to what the Iridium Go does. So the optimizer is a great little piece of equipment in that respect. The Iridium Go, that's, I've got one here. Great piece of equipment, cost effective, and has the unlimited airtime plan. And we really like that because then we can get weather anytime we want it. And being able to get weather anytime we want it is what we want. We want to be able to update our weather all the time. Anyway, we're on the web connection here. So I'm going to click to download, and it is going to download all the stuff that I've chosen to download. There's a bunch of stuff that we could have looked at there. I could have adjusted my to change my file size. I could have adjusted my area. I'll show you that in a minute. And you'll see here that because I'm on a web connection, everything's downloaded really quickly. But you'll see here that the weather out, he's sitting there having a think, and he's actually not sitting there having a think as such. It has sent that little packet of information. It said, oh look, Nick's here and my lat long, and it knows I've got a Swan 45, and it knows my polar percentages at 100%, and it's sent that information to our servers, and it knows where I'm going. And now our servers are crunching all that data using the highest resolution grids possible, ocean data, because I've got the professional package, and everything else. Every piece of data available to it is being used in that weather out. And that's the beauty of it, is that I've sent off this tiny little file size, and it's going to send me back a tiny little file, but it's actually used this huge amount, over 50 megabits of information is being calculated, used to calculate that route. There's in the route to calculate those routes, apparently there's over 1 billion calculations. It's calculating every possibility for my route, which is pretty clever. I can't emphasize enough how cool the weather routing side of things is, because what that allows us to do, because that weather route is doing it that way, it's meant that we don't need to have high resolution grids. If I was going to or even these grids here, if I had to download every single grid, and then I couldn't get the information that the weather route is using. If I had to download all those grids and then calculate my routes, it's a pretty involved process. So you'll see there, it's finished doing that calculation, and it has opened up here in I'll just close that. It's opened up here in my tables. And so this is where I can have a look, and I can see, the true wind speed, true wind direction, true wind angle, speed over ground. And so this is where I can start. This is the first place I'd come to, if we're just coming back to polars. They are super important. And I want to be able to look at this and I go, okay, so in 14 knots upwind, so 43, that's, the Swan can definitely, Swan 45 can definitely sail upwind. That's almost a race boat upwind angle, and doing 7.8 knots. So I don't actually have a Swan 45, but if that's how fast it goes, that's pretty impressive. Might get one. But I might look at this and I might go, you know what? My boat does not go this fast. And I might go back and I might just download the weather route and I might make it 90%. And go, that's actually more realistic. That's how we're sailing it. I've got all this information for all the models, but we can go through this and we can look at how at the route. We can flick over here to the summary. How long is it going to take? This is a good starter for analyzing our information. I better just check the time. Yeah, man, I can talk. It's probably why I do this. So you'll see here we've got our time taken: 12 days, 20 hours, 12 days, 4 hours, 12 days, 8 hours, 13 days, 11 hours. So the ECMWF obviously has slightly lower average speed for us. See, our average speeds there are 8 to 9 to 8 knots. We must be sailing further in the EC. So this information here is pretty important: time upwind, time reaching, time downwind. Again, this comes back to what I say about when do we leave? We run our departure planning or our weather routing, and we go, oh, it's upwind 80% of the time, and the waves are 3 meters to 5 meters, 60% of the time. That's not a trip that you're going to choose to go on, is it? We want to choose a departure time that gives us, nice reaching and downwind conditions, and not too big a waves. I mean, this all looks pretty acceptable to me. I'll just move that there. So you see, I've got all that information. I've got all my wave information in there, and I can look at that and analyze it. We've got our currents. Important little bit here, I can export my weather route. I wouldn't do that yet because I haven't looked at it on the map, but I can export this, and I could export it to a plotter, or if I was on my iPad, I would just be able to export that, and if I had some nav software on my iPad, I can put it straight in there, really easy. But if I wanted to put it on a plotter, a chart plotter, you can put it on an SD card, and you can put the SD card in your plotter, but that's not really what we need to do. What we actually want to do is choose some critical times: a 6-hour, a 12-hour, and a 24-hour, and then just sail our boat. We get those positions from the weather routing, we analyze it, we decide where we want to go, and then we choose those positions. If there were some critical times when the wind was going to change, we would add those positions to our plotter as well. But you don't need to have the whole route in there. We're not here to follow dots. We're here to follow the average routes. So I'm going to flick over to the map, and you'll see here, I think straight away, that what we're seeing is that we're in a light air piece of breeze. Let's hang on, I just need to move. I've got my team sitting on my, go away. Just need to pick up the Zoom tab. There we go, sitting on my controls. So we flick over to WIN. We're on the GFS model. Let's flick through some of the models. So they don't look too dissimilar. And you'll see now that the ECMWF has decided to go up, and the reason that we've got the routes splitting here again is are these light winds, and so the fastest route is for us to get around them. Maybe we should have turned the motoring option on, and we might have seen a much more even route. Just zoom in a bit there. And what we can see is people are like, oh no, the routes are going everywhere. What do I do? Well, what we do is, I need to move these people here. So this is, let's just move this forward to our start time. So we start here at, 8 o'clock, and we move this through. Oh, it's gone too far. These 8 o'clock tonight. So 12 hours time. In 12 hours time, I've got new weather. I've got new. There's been a new model run, and so what I can do we look at this a bit closer, is I've got 3 models telling me to basically go to the same place in the next 12 hours. And so that's what I do. And then I could update after that, and we might get more consensus through here. So that's, when you see divergence, that's what you do. You look at the short term, see if there's an average in the short term. We could also look at our wind gear on the boat and just see what model's matching most closely what we've got. So we can flick through our models there. We can change the way that we look at, and you can see this high pressure here that's creating our light winds. So go away, Craig. So anyway, let's have a look at some other parameters. So our rain, why do we want rain? We're sailors, we don't mind getting wet. Why do we want rain? We can see why we want rain right here. So the rain shows us where our frontal bands are. And you can see we've got a perfect example of one right here. And this is why we get it. We want to see what's going on and where these changes are. And where there's a front, we want to see what else is going on, because obviously that's systems coming together can often be disturbed activity. So let's come over here. Let's flick over to our cape, and right there in our cape, we can see a bit of action. So you'll see there I'm running out of weather because I only got 5 days of weather. And so I might want to go back and get one model and get 10 days and have a better look at it. Maybe get the ECMW for 10 days or something like that. But what we can see here is these cape levels. Why do we want to know about cape? Okay, so cape is convective available potential energy. It is an indicator of instability. So we had the rain there, and then we flicked over to the cape, and we can see that in this part here, we've got, elevated cape levels. What does that mean? It means that with the higher the cape level in that frontal band, the bigger bang it's going to have. The chance of thunderstorms or just in this case, quite a volatile frontal change. So with those two systems coming together, it's created a whole lot of energy, and we want to be aware. We might, if this, we'll keep updating our weather as we get closer to this, and we will want to think about how we're going to deal with that. We want to be prepared. So the cape gives us, if I see these cape levels going up, we know that there's a change. So that's one thing to be aware of. We've got higher cape levels. So that's something else that sort of is a bit of an alert to us. We might just sail a bit more conservatively when this comes. If these, there's a frontal band coming and we've got some higher cape levels in it, let's just sail with, let's just have a reef in. Let's not have the spinnaker up. Let's be ready to furl the sails. Again, comes back to seamanship. We've got the tools here, and we want to, use these tools to make our life better and easier. Just flick over to the gusts there, and you can see there, yeah, we get a bit more. There's a bit more pressure in it, but not. Yeah. So what was our averages? I'll change that back to there. So yeah, we've got 20 knots average there. 19 knots, gust, 25. Yeah, not a huge difference, but definitely be aware. I'm just going to zoom out a bit, come down here. So somewhere where we're going to see a lot more cape is when you do get across to the Caribbean. I'm assuming everyone's going this way. Some people go the other way. At this time, not many. But yeah, this is definitely a great tool. It could be not very windy. So see there, 9 knots. We've got high cape levels. if we saw any black clouds rolling towards us, we want to be reducing sail and getting ready, because chances are we're going to have some sort of thunderstorm activity. So I think, I mean, I could probably talk about using this for about 5 hours, but we've given a bit of an overview of how you might use it. We've done tons of tutorials on how to use this, and as I said at the start, some very, very knowledgeable people able to help you out at the other end. Before we come off this, so GPS tracking, you'll see here I've got a boat that I sail on. I'm the green one. This is me sailing around the North Island of New Zealand two-handed. And I've got a couple of other boats on here. Let's move that. And so what's cool about this is if I was in a rally or I had a buddy boat, I can see where they are. I can click on this guy here to see if he sees anything. I don't know. I don't actually know him. Oh, let's click on this guy. Pull back. Don't know him either. And you can see here, I've been able to download his blog posts, and so I can see what's going on, on their boat. They might talk about the weather, they might talk about all sorts of other things. So we can have a look at what they're doing, and see that. Another feature, if you're in a rally with where they're using YB tracking, we can work with them as well, and you can see everyone in your rally there. That's from the race I did. Anyhow, we'll talk about that a little bit more. I'll stop sharing that, and I will come over here and share my Google Chrome. There we go. And again, I need to move the Zoom stuff. Okay, so the tracking pages are pretty cool. You'll see here we have these guys if I zoom out, they've actually sailed around the world, which is pretty cool. So anyone that's the best way to do this is probably with an Iridium Go, or get a YB3i from us, and you can track your position. You can add all these blog posts. I mean, these guys have amazing blog posts. Really cool. Really cool for people at home to be able to see what you're doing. They can, they can keep an eye on you. We can look at that. I can turn the weather off. I can look at a satellite view. He thinks. And I can see their trip around the world. So very cool. If you're in rallies, you see here we've got the, whoa, what do I do there? Let's just refresh that. If you're in a rally, you can, as I said before, you can see all the other people's boats, and but also everyone else can see you. So we can click on any boat here, and we can see them. So it's pretty cool. See these guys, Gertie. So he's doing 6.6 knots, and yeah, it's all pretty cool. So that's the tracking stuff like this here. These guys are around the world. It's super cool. It's a nice to have. If you have a standard or a professional subscription and you're using an Iridium Go, it's awesome. There are other ways to do it. You can do manual updates, and you can send these updates from in the offshore app while you're at sea. So yeah, a great little tool. I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. Yeah, and looking at the time. So as I said, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar. Any questions that weren't answered, we will follow up. We will send out the frequently asked questions. If you want to know more about PredictWind, please get in touch with our support team. They are there to help you. They're super knowledgeable and they're very nice people. Anyhow, I think that's where we'll finish up. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. And yeah, it's really, really appreciated. And I hope that you learned something.